Welcome, party people. This is my garden, your garden, the DAO garden, the house party. I raise a glass to you, Joel Thorstensson. What's the correct way to say Thorstensson in
Thorstensson?
In Swedish,
Swedish way?
Thorstensson.
Thorstensson.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're here today with Joel Thorstensson to talk about ceramic network. It's a bit of a theme. We're talking about streams and streams and streams. Last week we had Superfluid, and now Thorstensson is going to show us a little bit more about what their vision is for digital identities, NFTs, and streams of information, blah, blah, blah. But first, I want to ask you, Joel, do you know what the people of DAOhaus have been up to? Have you caught up with DAOhaus and all that stuff yet?
I know generally what you guys are up to. I didn't know any recent updates, but I'm a user of the house.
Yeah, we all are. Well, that's what we do in the very, very beginning of the podcast. We allow my co-host, Mr. Deacon Bro, and then just to give us a couple of updates on what DAOhaus has been up to and the Boost Foundry and all these beautiful things. What do you guys have for us this week?
Yeah, we've just been, whoa. Did we just lose Joel?
No, he just closed his camera, apparently.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, we're still just trucking away, like this new DAOhaus thing, which DAOhaus is like all the DAOs in DAOhaus in one DAO. Still putting all the pieces together there. Like, had a couple people that Paladins is like it's kind of like the group that are the cat herders of a DAO, and like Metacartel has a Paladins group. Red Guild actually calls it something different, but there's always like some kind of group like that. So a few people from the community in DAOhaus have raised their hand. So I think we'll probably be getting that started. We started we're having DAOs paying DAOs now, like one DAO making a proposal against another DAO, things like that. So that's all pretty cool. And we've been starting some work, working with DAO Square, Tiptoe, which a lot of people know, building out.
Very custom DAO.
Yeah, kind of like thing for them. And then, we got our NFT thing going. Been talking to some cool people on that. So the creator collector kind of DAOs and tokens for DAOs will be coming very soon. So we're just staying really busy, and our community is growing really fast. We got a lot of new people coming in, new devs offering contributions. Isaac isn't on here right now, but he did a new kind of minion that's conditional. Basically, like relies on the return value of another contract before execution of some proposal that has been passed by a DAO. But some really like interesting things. So what we were going to use that for is a buyout proposal. So like in the case of a NFT DAO where you have the DAO owns an NFT, if someone's leaving the DAO like through a rage quit or something, they can't take a piece of all the NFTs, but they could propose to the DAO like, hey, let's like end this on good terms. Here's my proposal. If it passes, then also take away all my shares. So things like that. But I'm really excited for today's guest, actually. Like I saw some cool things with the Gnosis safes being able to have profiles, and so that's something I think we want to talk about a little bit of like how maybe DAOs or minions could have a profile. So all the really interesting things that are happening with ceramic, it's will be cool to hear about.
So we can open the floor to our guest today. Joel, are you excited to be here? Or are you just seeing the world through rosy tinted glasses?
Yeah, I mean, let's dive in.
All right. So what have you been working in today specifically? What aspect of ceramic that doesn't exist yet are you trying to bring into existence?
So today, actually, we released V1 of the like JavaScript libraries that is the ceramic core implementation, the kind of interface you use to interact with ceramic. We also released like a new version of IDX, which uses ceramic to like build identity structures. And so we kind of just had a release party today, kind of releasing all of the new JavaScript libraries. So that's really exciting. That's something that now we won't like introduce, since like we're on 1.0, we won't like introduce any like breaking changes there. So like the interface should be much better. The kind of typings in TypeScript will like does actually make sense, and it's like easier to use essentially. So that's like been the main thing today, is like coordinating and making sure that really, I think we released like at least 15 packages today. Yeah, and then some work on a new website and some documentation stuff. I think that's my day.
Sounds like a pretty full day, Joel. Are you okay? Have you eaten? Have you remembered to drink water? Are you all right?
I have water right here, so
Great.
I'm good.
Yeah, it's exciting to have Joel on the podcast for me because we're like, I would say we're personal friends. We see each other. Probably the person I see most often, I guess, in real life because we live close by to each other. And just making sure the guy is safe. Like, those are pretty insane glasses. I don't know if he's doing so great. So I'm gonna try to keep things under control here.
These are to like save my eyes.
No, I'm just teasing you, Joe. I just invite the audience to always complain if I'm making too many jokes and if the signal to noise ratio becomes a little bit annoying. Let me know, DM me. But yeah, having these three people here is especially exciting for me because a little bit of what they're all building goes over my head, as most of the world often goes over my head. So it's basically just an excuse to get Deacon Van and Joel locked in a room for a bit because these projects should meet and they should have babies.
Right? I was wondering about. I guess we want to just get right into
get right into
nitty gritty. Like, so I saw the DID safe spec. I was wondering if you had any kind of knowledge on that, if there's something you'd want to talk about, and like also how like. So with our structure, we have a DAO, and then the minion is kind of like the thing that can run arbitrary contract execution, and how maybe that would be able to have a DID kind of similar idea around it and things like that.
Yeah. So the whole kind of thing with, or the thing that led to the safe DID was actually when we created the. So we've been using like DADs internally in Ceramic and 3box for a while, and one of the things in Ceramic that's kind of limiting is like you need to have a DAD and then you can like have these data streams, but then like transferring ownership of data streams is like non-trivial unless you like build an entire blockchain system to prevent double spends. So like one way we had been thinking about that was like, okay, maybe we can just use an NFT as a DID and then like let that control a stream. So that had been like in the back of my mind, like in the back of our minds for like a year. And now like a month ago or something, I had a realization like how that could be made into reality, very simple. So maybe it's useful to like some context of like the DAD standard and like how it works. So just very briefly, like a DAD is basically a string that has some information, and mostly like you can think of it kind of like an Ethereum address, but it also contains like information about how you resolve a DAD document. And so the DAD document is something that you take the string, you resolve the document, kind of similar like you take an IPFS hash and resolve some data. But so the DAD document contains public key information. So that could be like keys used for verifying signatures, and keys used for doing a key exchange. So you can like encrypt data to any identity. So obviously, like if you have an NFT, the only information you have about the NFT is like who is the like address that owns it, and that there's not necessarily like any DAD information associated with that address. So what we did with NFT was that we basically created a DAD that is the NFT, and then there's a unique way of identifying any NFT on any blockchain. And then we look up on the blockchain who's the owner of this NFT, and then we use something in the Ceramic protocol, which is called a KYB10 link. And essentially what that is, without going into too much details, is it's a way to associate any blockchain account to a DAD using like a cryptographic link.
Is that one address?
Amazing. I love it.
Is that one address, or can it be a collection of addresses?
So one link per address. One address links to a DAD, but you can have like a set of these links, right? So you can have, if you have 3 addresses, you can link all of them to the same DAD.
Cool. Yeah, nice. That seems optimal for DAOs.
So let's explore that soon.
Especially if you want to create value flows between DAOs that are on different chains or platforms. So Ceramic becomes the crossroads.
I want to get to answer Deacon's question. So let me try to finish that, and then we can jump into more kind of exploration. So so the NFT did basically looks who's the owner and then resolves the DAD of the owner, and the NFT did kind of becomes just like a recursive wrapper around the owner of the NFT. And in the same way, the Gnosis Safe did just looks at who's the owner of the safe contract, and then associates those DADs to the safe DAD. And the nice thing about that is that we can actually use the safe DAD to like encrypt the message to all of the owners of the safe. And that was like one of the things that the safe team really wanted out of this, to be able to like even like if you have a safe that owns another safe, you want to encrypt a message that goes to like all of the sub owners of the like other safe. So you can do that by like doing recursive lookups there.
So in one example is like through the AMB Gnosis module, you can do kind of like a cross-chain message execution against like a mainnet safe from an XDAI safe or XDAI DAO, like with the minion. So the minion would be the owner of the safe on mainnet. The XDAI minion would be an owner of the safe. So there's some recursion kind of happening with that, right? Like if the minion had a did and then the safe, right?
So I'm not super familiar with the specific submodule or like module that you talked about. I think the way we designed it right now,
but I was just talking about it. Yeah.
Okay, so the way the spec works right now is that it looks at the owners module, but in theory, like we could extend it to other things. In theory, we could create a DID malloc that allows all owners of a malloc to control the DAD. There's a limitation in the DID standard right now, though, that like if you have a safe with like 3 owners, for example, any one of those owners would be able to act on behalf of the DAD for like editing off-chain data. Right. So that's like a limitation right now. If you have a malloc with like 100 members, then any one individual would be able to like take actions. But like that's something that can be like worked around in various ways.
Right.
So there's an implicit bounty there for people who want to work with Ceramic to create a governance interface for a DID. Just saying, think about it. Hit Joel. I know there are space mind funds and desire to build all these things out. So
yeah, like with the way the safe uses it, is there anything where it could be some kind of transaction to edit the off-chain data, or I guess that would probably be pretty tough.
I mean,
that they all would have to sign, you know, or
yeah. I mean, you could. I guess there's like a few different approaches.
Like, I guess if in that NFT, if it had some information, or I don't know.
So with an NFT, it's easier because there's usually just one owner. With a safe, like if you want all owners to sign, maybe you just use the safety to like look up the owners and then like have each owner create their own stream in Ceramic to like have their own kind of document that they edit, and then you kind of compose those and like read the information from all three of those. So that's like an approach where you could like you can kind of work around the fact that DIDs don't have like multi-sig like built in yet.
Cool.
But yeah, so to your question on like minions and like, yeah, I mean, you can do DIDs based on any like smart contracts where you have like an owner in theory. So like if that's something like that's you think is worth exploring, then we could. But yeah, I guess it depends kind of what the use case of that would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like we might not even need the minion. Well, to hold the NFT. So does the safe actually hold the NFT that's creating this link?
Oh, so that's not an NFT.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
The NFT DID is a completely separate thing.
Oh, okay.
The Type 10 link is just like a stream in Ceramic.
Okay.
So you don't need to have an NFT involved.
Is the NFT how you're like creating a way for something on chain to look it up though?
No, so there isn't any way right now to look up DADs on chain. So it's mostly used for like off-chain data flows, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only primitive thing really because that's how we've approached a lot of these things inside of DAOhaus. Like, start with like the, I guess, practical example, like every DAO has like a custom theme, or beyond that, even just metadata for the DAO itself, like so that they're recognizable to other DAOs, right? Like avatar, name, description, just basic profile stuff for the DAO so that other DAOs can reference that the exact same way that an individual would want to reference your individual profile. As far as use case, that's most of the value is when DAOs are interacting with one another. It's we've been like, it's been needed actually for like a year at least. It would create an enormous user experience benefit to all DAOs if they could, reasonably be sure of who they're interacting with and whatever, right? But how we've kind of done that on the metadata level is the same way, it sounds like. Like currently, any member of the DAO can go and update that metadata for the DAO because, like you said, there's like much more dimensionality to fixing that problem as far as like, okay, well, now we need to gate that behind a DAO vote, basically. So if we're going to update this record, it has to go through, it gets proposed to the DAO, and it goes through the DAO or the minion, and then the minion conditionally waits for the votes to collect, and when those votes are collected, now the minion can execute that profile update. Is kind of like how we're looking at it, I guess, from a concept wise.
But that because that is like a little extra when you just want to change a font or something, maybe that's too much.
Right.
So really,
so
the way we have it now is any member, and just through a little service that we have that checks the signatures against if they're a member of the DAO. But it sounds like we could actually use the DID for this same kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, I don't think you actually need like a specific DAO DID to like do that type of thing. So one approach could be to like basically do like a vote off chain. So every user has like a stream in Ceramic, and the stream kind of reduces down to like a JSON document. So everyone can like set, like I can set the team, like I set the background in DAOhaus, right? And if someone else sets it, then it becomes like, okay, now there's two different ones, and maybe you choose the one that was like set. I don't know, like set first, and if there's like two opposing ones, then there needs to be more people that set that one. And then so as long as you keep track of like all users' state, and then pick the one that like most users picked, then you could do that like coordination completely off chain.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what looks like for me in my head as you speak, and my non-programmer head, I see this almost like a design thinking diamond thing where you have a set state and you generate alternatives, and then you have to create some form of mechanics for the group that control that set of alternatives to coalesce again into a set state.
Yeah, and you can even like balance it by like shares, right? Like, so if there's three, or if there's like three or like, now I'm getting lost. If there are like three users of the DAO, like three shareholders, and like one has 40%, the other has 20, and the other has 40. So like if the person with like 20 sets background blue, and then another user with like 40 shares sets background red, right? Then the background would be red. But then you can like weight it by the actual share.
If that third one said blue as well, then they outweigh the
exactly
shares, and now it turns blue.
Yeah, that's a cool idea too. Yeah.
I love that.
Would we, for example, use mint gates to have certain functions hidden to certain levels of shares and things like this?
Yeah, so that's also interesting. Like if you have like some some balance that you need to be over, and then like you can have like encrypted messaging that is only like when you send the message like from your computer, that message gets encrypted only to the members that have over a certain threshold. And so you can kind of control the data flow in that way, which might be useful for some things.
Like, for example, a choose your own adventure book on a DID, like Steve Jackson 21st century version. As you succeed, your character advances inside that story that is actually a DAO, and there's several other people playing that story. And at a certain point, you can actually become a co-writer of that story. And like, so you progress from adventurer and raider to dungeon master as you complete certain things. I don't know. Generative storytelling is an interesting use case that nobody would ever give a shit about except me.
Yeah, that's DAO life. That's
yeah, totally fits the vibe.
I don't know. Maybe this description got Bao excited. I know Bao got excited.
Well, I love like emergent gaming kind of things, and that sounds awesome. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was growing up, there was these games from White Wolf, right? And there was like werewolf, vampire, blah blah, and there was mage. And mage is basically the game where you could have any superpower that you ever saw in a movie or any superhero. There was a set of controls you have over the 9 spheres of reality that you go from altering to sensing, from altering to creating, and then creating like big scales. So very powerful mages, they create entire worlds of their own. They can have planets. They can create entire dimensions that are, well, it's fucking Rick and Morty basically.
Meta dimensions.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting.
You could have a game that you actually can get there. You know.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting having these kind of hierarchy of like information access. So you could have like some people that have like the highest access start creating something, and then like after a while, that some time period that gets unlocked to like a larger set, and then they collaborate more to create something more, and essentially just like creating an experience that's more like very coherent for the kind of final consumers, which don't have access to the information early, but they have access to kind of the results that come like long after.
one useful thing to do this is to create learning journeys through crypto itself, right? So let's take, for example, the very, very baby launched Bankless DAO, which I need to make time to go and talk to them about it and try to get like some fingers in there. It's a great use case for this because one, it's onboarding a lot of new people in the space. Like they just had a podcast with, I don't know if you guys saw it, but Gary Vee, and then Gary Vee's just like talking to Bankless guys, and then he just turns the camera. Like, I told this motherfucker not to sell the ETH, and then there's like people sitting there and just laughing in his all. I don't know if you saw it, you need to go see this right now. And then they, actually, people missed a 2x upside on his 70 million, because he sold everything.
I mean, that was a pretty rational move from him, though. Still,
sometimes being irrational is the dumbest thing you can do. But the thing is, that being said, I'm trying to say, like,
when you miss out on future gains, when you make a mistake like that, to call it that you just did a beeple. Can we just call that?
Yeah, at least he's part of culture. Like, yeah.
Oh, you really beepled that one.
Yeah, when your friend, like 10 years from now, when your friend leaves a party early and then there's like this crazy orgy that happened afterwards, it's like just people. No, but wait, let's get back to the thing. There's this whole entire new universe of people joining. That there's no amount of like ant work, person to person, one per one onboarding work that will ever make do with the onslaught of attention that Ethereum is about to get. If we design a beautiful narrative where people can literally earn sort of, I don't know. You know where I'm going. I don't need to fucking draft it all out for you. But if you're interested, David, Ryan, just, give me a call, answer my proposal. It's out.
So with Ceramic and like a group of people have their data private?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. We don't have like we don't have like high level, easy to use tools for that yet. But the framework that we have for interacting with the IDs on the low level have the ability to like encrypt messages to individuals, and you can use those primitives to like encrypt messages to like, you can basically create the symmetric key that you use to encrypt like a bunch of information. Then you encrypt the symmetric key to like a set of users, right? And then any user that had access to that symmetric key can like have the capability to like read that data. So that's something that right now you kind of need to do manually in Ceramic, but in the future we want to make that easier, so you can like create a data stream and then like add and remove users to access that.
That's cool. I think that could even be used in for example, with say a DAO wants to make a swap on a Uniswap or something. The proposal to make the swap happens before the governance period, so you have like this 2-week period of where like, I want to go like swap 100K DAI for 30 ETH or whatever it is, and then now that's all public for like 2 weeks, so like the front running potential is very high, and all that. But if you could have a way to like do that kind of shared encryption, and then like verify it on the other side, so you make your proposal with it encrypted on chain, and then on the other side you verify it for the execution. That could be something kind of cool. Keep it.
Yeah, I guess there's like two things here. So like one is the coordination between the parties, and the other is like the proposal to execute the transaction. And so the on-chain component is, of course, the more difficult one. That, I don't know, like if anyone has worked on this in like a while. There was something way back called like a submarine contract that like executes transactions. It basically like it does a commit reveal thing. Mm-hmm. So you can't like front run it in some way. I don't know if it's like actually safe for if that particular instance is actually safe for sandwiching. I guess
Right.
like even yeah, because like even if you do that, like even if you send the
The price
transaction,
could change, right? And then it's hard
like
to.
yeah, exactly. So you kind of need the like basically if you want that type of like front running protection, you need to have the decryption built into the swap or like the exchange. Basically, like everyone submits orders encrypted, and you need to have like some distributed key generation system where you have parties that have generate a random key, and then they can share the public key, and everyone encrypts with that public key, and then like puts transaction on chain, and then like the next block, the committee of like hold like different pieces of the private key, reveal it, so then decrypt the transactions and execute that. So that would like effectively prevent front running and like sandwiching and like uncle attacks and like what the hell all the things are called. But that's probably like too expensive for a
Right.
bunch of use cases.
That's
And
that
you
chain
can't do it for like one up thing. Like yeah.
Yeah, you could have like the encrypted bit goes on chain, and then yeah, the contract would need a way to like to verify when that's
I mean,
yeah at the end. Like if you posted the correct like unencrypted thing, like how could it verify before execution?
yeah, isn't there like a more pragmatic way to do this kind of thing though? Like you basically give the funds to some individual that executes the transaction, and that individual could potentially like put up like some collateral that they stake that the DAO would like slash if they misbehave.
Yeah,
Obviously,
that's kind of built into the Moloch with guilt kick. So it's like people can, and DAOs do this a lot. They'll delegate some action to someone with the threat of like, if you fuck this up, then we're going to kick you out of the DAO. And
yeah,
that
but that
Still
only
doesn't.
works.
It still
That only
doesn't
works.
fix. It still doesn't fix the fuck up though. If the fuck up is profitable enough.
yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I actually enjoy. I have nothing to contribute to this conversation of this like ZK swap you guys are inventing or something. But it's definitely like if from this conversation a final elegant solution to the problem of DAO arbitrage actually emerges, I'll just not say anything for an hour.
No, I think we're just getting down a rabbit hole.
But let's look at more use cases of ceramic, and if we want to pragmatize it, because honestly, I've spent a lot of time thinking about ceramic because Joe's not a very talkative person, but he won't shut the fuck up about ceramic, and then I eventually ended up understanding it.
I'm the same way with that.
exactly, and I appreciate it actually. So I spent a lot of time thinking about the billion ways that ceramic can be used. So what I'd say is like, let's figure out what can we build together, especially knowing that there is going to be like a way to use DIDs as the DAO module of Gnosis safes and stuff. One of the things we're doing, for example, tell me to shut up if this doesn't sound useful. We have a collective fund to rent a house here in Portugal. We're going to be all together here in June for a month, from June to July, and we're all thinking of moving here. We're all looking at the opportunities together. It's me, Joel, Drew, who's in the chat, and Nick, another guy. And I wanted to get those funds there in the Gnosis safe and actually collateralize with House and put it in Shogun, so we could end up with more party funds, because this is the party house. But then we never did it, etc. What kind of ways can we build this in the Moloch ecosystem with ceramics or other shared governance opportunities or creative opportunities that we could have?
What was your goal? What were you trying to do with those funds or coordination?
It was an experiment to see if we could actually just use XDAI safe to together make an investment, etc. Nobody could confirm that it would work, and I'm afraid to throw funds into oblivion. We just never did it, and we forgot about it, basically.
I mean, you could do that with a multi-sig or a DAO, Moloch DAO, either way.
Yeah, I mean, technically, you can execute arbitrary transactions with like a Gnosis safe,
Yeah,
just like
same with the minion. Yeah.
it's
Well,
just
we missed out because
difficult to get right.
What was that?
It's just annoyingly difficult to do it right.
Yeah, right. At least, yeah, because you just have to, somebody needs to go figure out how to collect the bytecode, right? Which isn't hard. It just takes like practice, a couple times doing it, really. Where there is no module. I mean, Gnosis has a lot of sweet modules, though, and
But it's not only like the bytecode. You also need to make sure that the transaction you make will be valid if the price of the tokens change. So, like, if something changes in the pool as you like prepare the transaction, then you kind of have to redo everything.
Right.
And like you have to get like both confirmations like pretty quickly in there. Because like one confirmation, if you need like two confirmations, you make one, and then something changes, and you try to make the other transaction, and it's just gonna fail. So yeah, I've been in that situation, just like trying to execute a swap, and it's like really horrible.
Yeah, we just did like 3 yesterday. But you have to be together and do it, right? In a multi-sig, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to start this transaction, and then 8 hours later, maybe somebody will sign it. You have to be like, you have to coordinate. Be like, we're firing the transaction, we're staging it, we're doing it right now.
Set your min tokens low and your execution date or whatever they call it way up.
Yeah, we just want V3 though. That opens up a lot of new possibilities with that stuff too, though, right? Potentially make it a little bit easier.
I actually don't know enough about that, but another thing I think. So one of the things we have is we use like some kind of centralized solutions for some of our metadata. Basically like things like Airtable, and we've been looking a lot into ceramic and ways to like help with this. And I think it would be like, it's like super doable. Actually, Sam, who's in the group, I don't know how you want to talk about. Yeah.
I mean, so stage, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the path you were going down of thinking about updating DAO metadata or allowing all members to update DAO metadata, and then there being some mechanism for the DAO to know that this is the metadata of truth, you know? One idea...
Canonical collective intelligence.
Yeah, one idea we've kicked around is like having a role, like and I don't know how that would look, but like a theme master role, and that member, the data attached to their DID is the theme of truth or something.
Yeah, that's also a really good approach.
Yeah, like what you were saying earlier, Joel, with the like the share weighting example or whatever. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good point, Sam. Like we were talking about like DAOs being able to issue NFTs as roles, basically, like to their members. Like, so Joel's has the NFT of this. So if he puts it in a suggestion, then it should be the one that gets taken. But maybe other people can be doing things also. But if you ever do it, then you're like the theme master or whatever. So
that's really neat. And then you could actually use the NFT did to like be the kind of controller of that stream. So you just look at this data stream for that NFT, and then so you can I can transfer it, and then like just the control over that data stream changes. So you mentioned.
Can you program like a timestamp for a transfer? Like, for example, could I have a circular leadership implementation where each of these groups of each wallet will hold this NFT for a set time, and it will auto transfer maybe randomly to somebody else? Like, can we design this kind of thing?
Sure.
That can happen on chain. Yeah.
It's possible.
So I wanted to jump back to the Dick and what you talked about with like Airtable and. So maybe first, like, how are you using that? Is that DAO members that use the Airtable to like fill out information, or is it just like external?
Yeah, the DAO members can any DAO member can edit it, and
they don't edit Airtable.
Do like an EC recover. We have a little service for that, and then so that's basically all we use it for.
So is that like you use it as like a form or as a table?
No, it's just a database for us, really.
Yeah.
All the editing is through the front end and and verified membership through each signatures. But yeah, it's just been an easy way for us to get like our data model in place, and now we're ready to to move that somewhere more decentralized, right?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because one thing I was thinking about, so in Ceramic, you can set, so we have this stream called tile document, and tile documents basically is like a JSON document. And in a tile, you can set a schema, and that schema is a JSON schema that will be enforced on the JSON content of the tile document. So one thing that some people in our community are doing is creating a system that looks at the JSON schema and then generates like a form, or generates takes the data that conforms to the schema and generates like a UI. So then like people can plug in their own kind of schemas and data to like an application that automatically generates a view. So you could potentially do something where you define like a form to fill out some information, and then define that as a schema, and then like the UI would be auto-generated, and then users can just fill in that, and that will be stored as like their own personal stream, and then you can like aggregate that, right? So there's a bunch of cool stuff like around that you can do with Ceramic to kind of create.
That's cool with the schema though, because it wouldn't be too hard then just to build your own form around that schema, right? And
yeah, I mean, if you have the schema, you can like auto-generate a form.
yeah, that's really cool. We have a Griff Green just hopped in. What's up, man?
Griff Dog? Nice.
Yeah, Griff has been there for about like a few minutes. I've been watching him watch us. I'll give people permission to speak. By the way, since we have a tiny interruption while we're bringing Griff to the stage, don't forget to claim your POAP, your Proof of Attendance Protocol badge for tonight. How do I use that bot? I forgot.
Vanilla.
Type what in the chat again?
Yes, I'm there. I'm here. Oh wow.
Hello, Griffin artists.
You have
How
some
you doing?
solid moderation skills, man. I don't know. I don't even know how to do this magic. I need to learn. So
I see you're not in Ecuador anymore. Oh my God.
I know. It's sad I'm in the state. But it's okay. I'll get out soon. I actually really want to show something off to you guys that I think is super cool and that you will really love. So we're in the Token Engineering Commons. We're using what we're calling a hatch DAO, and it's a Moloch DAO, but we're using the Aragon framework, the Dandelion background, because we want to. There's some other. We have a bunch of Aragon devs. That's just what we know. So, but we're basically designing a kind of an early stage, a fundraise that is attached to a Moloch DAO, but instead of like having just a core group of people like me, Zargum, and Sam or whatever, some devs like figure out what all the parameters should be, we're having a community design process.
Yeah. I actually know about that. I had a call with Tam about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's super cool. And we're trying to do this like bottom up design and bottom up DAOs without like a central like core tech team. Trying to avoid that as much as we can, and taking the technocracy at least a step back. I mean, there's no way to avoid it completely, but we're really diving into this your economy, your choice. And so this forum post, which I can put a link to, kind of like gives an overview of how it all works. And we're using token log, which I assume many of you have touched, right? Token log is super cool for voting on GitHub issues. But what we're doing is we're using token log as a way to propose parameters for the DAO. So for instance, here's Goldilocks and Goldilocks v2. So these are just parameters that anyone with a GitHub account can propose. And it's kind of this pre-filled GitHub form that pumps out of our dashboard. So like, here Lauren made some parameter choices. These graphs are explained down here. You get this simulated outcome. And what we're doing with the hatch is that it's basically describing the initial token distribution. So you have people who did a bunch of work, the team, which for us is like 300 people who got praise. And a lot of you guys are in there. And then there's the people who put money in, right? So we called people who put money in backers and people who earned impact hours builders. Now it's like, how do we distribute tokens to these two groups of people? And we're using the dependent variable being how much the group raises. So if they raise, 800K, then they get $25 per impact hour. If they raise 2 million, then it's $50 per impact hour. If they raise 8 million, then it's $100 per impact hour. But
first of all, this sounds like we deserve our own episode with the Tech Hatch and having you here for 1 hour, because that's I know. Yeah. But you're also having a great way to have a community kind of create a cat simulation together without any one person setting the parameters, basically.
And even better, if someone chooses parameters and you just don't like one of them, you can click here and go to the dashboard and just change that one parameter and then resubmit it. And so it's like this iterative community design, and specifically for Moloch DAOs.
This is awesome. I can't wait to dive in more to it. So yeah, what Griff said, what Philippe said. Griff, do you want to come on House Party for a few episode, and we can just
I would love to do. So here's the thing.
This is time critical. When do you need it?
Yeah, we have to do it before. Ideally, it'd be Monday or Tuesday next week.
Maybe it has to be the Thursday, babe.
Well, the Thursday, the votes close, so no more submissions will be accepted. I mean, we can play with it, but
but that's great. But that's great. That's great.
Because, we can go through the retroactive.
Come to the announcement. Yeah, kind of like who won? Was it Biden or Trump? Like we have the election night results.
You see, we do these hatch parties. So we all design together. I would love to get a hatch party going
live.
Live, like where we basically we have them all the time. But I'd love to make one especially for DAOhaus.
All right, so let's do this. Right after this, or very soon, I'll connect with you. We sketch a special hors concours house party episode for the hatch party, and then also we schedule one for the thing. So you bring everybody in, bring the Livia, Tam, all the people, everybody discussing parameters together. Will be like proper DAO nerdiness, and then also we try to have kind of the result and the tech stuff, etc. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it. And so
that's a little to Joel real quick.
Right, everyone can get in, but let's get back to Joel.
The word to Joel real quick. Like Joel, looking at this, how could we do this with ceramic and stuff? Like it sounds like a perfect use case for like having community collectively edit the ID and with permissions and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all of the kind of specifics of the process that leads up to kind of gathering all the information, having the party, and like then finally making the decision of like what the parameters could be. One thing that is could potentially be useful, depending on like the level of basically like so you the one useful aspect of ceramic that with the data flows that you create is that you get like attribution of like what everyone did, right? So if you have some you need to create like a hatch, but there's like contention and like a bunch of stuff, and like someone is hosting like a forum and like they could be manipulating stuff. If you did like every piece of data you gathered, if you did that on ceramic like streams, then you would be able to like look back at what happened and like actually see that we went through this process in the correct way, and now we can just put this into the on-chain contracts based on
you
like
can verify it again then in the future.
Yeah, you have like a more verifiable way of looking, attributing like the history of like everything that led up to the hatch. I don't know how useful that is. Maybe something that's like further out once these things start growing a bit.
No, it's super useful because we want to have in the end, like first off, this is the first of this dashboard. We want to totally revamp the UX. It's horrible, but we would like the communities to be able to vote, and then instead of just having to trust the devs to deploy it, what if it would just be deployed you know, and then we could also, we right now we're relying on people attribution, like saying, oh yeah, I forked these parameters from this guy. And then like, you know, I say in mine that I forked them from Lauren, you know, and then she forked them from one of my other ones, and which was forked from another one. And it's, we just have to hope.
And then they were merged with this other fork. Yeah. How do you?
So we're talking about the trustless fair launch.
Yeah, because then like there you could really do like better attribution if you include like cryptographic signatures all along the way there.
Yeah, maybe like hook up into Radical. Could give you more access to that kind of stuff. Could be cool. How do you do that? How do you define the impact hours, or where does that number come from? Or
that came from? I mean, that would be a very nice use case for Ceramic, honestly. But that comes from praise. So we dish praise to people, and then we quantify the praise a couple weeks later, and it gets quantified into impact hours.
Okay.
You do some kind of quadratic dampening of praise. I imagine that praise is a little bit of a winner take all game. It's also quite a random thing. Yeah, I just social, like systems are too social and have like, you know, just creates Justin Bieber's, you know, like I don't think it's that cool. Like I really like
praise needs to be tagged up with source cred. I feel like praise fills a lot of source cred gaps, and source cred fills a lot of praise gaps. There.
Yeah, there you go. And then hook it into like Radical or something. Yeah. Source cred, Radical, super dope.
And then some decaying rep from DAOstack or something.
I love the bottom. I love the bottom up design though of this. It's like perfect. I love the sentiment and concept of like a community forming itself at Genesis, right?
You know what sounds the most interesting for me is that it destroys the theoretical discussion, and every discussion is a practical, propositive, action-based discussion where a community can truly lead itself together from ignorance to safe enough to try cognizance of a possible decision, right? So it's a little bit of a governance dream, but it does feel to me right now at the way it is that it needs let's say that the threshold of desire of the individual to participate has to be quite high. It's not a game yet, right?
Tollgate.
And I would love if it was a game. You know, I love if it was something that people did in their it was a relaxing thing to do. You know?
Well, we got 5 minutes left. I guess.
Yes,
Joel.
Joel.
Is there anything else you wanted to shill?
No,
or share,
I'm not sure I understand. Shit, I had a question that I want to ask Joel at the end, which is like, what is the most wildly optimistic, expensive, high coordination cost thing that you would see, like, love to see happen with Ceramic? And then you can answer that quickly, and then sort of just shut up and give your final considerations, or give any shills or shout outs or requests to the community.
So I mean, it's hard. So like I see like where Ceramic is going is in the direction of what the semantic web was trying to be. So if you're not familiar with semantic web, it's kind of this old thing where you have a bunch of linked data. Instead of like having like the hypertext HTML stuff, you make that, and you have data that link to each other, and then you can kind of have semantic descriptions of what data is, so you can kind of have this kind of open data flows. And that didn't really work out in the open internet. It kind of worked out in like Facebook and Google. They have like internal versions of this. And I think one of the reasons it works well there is because links don't really die. Like you can have a policy to like keep the URLs, like the HTTP links, alive. But in the open internet, you can't really do that. So if I care about something that's behind that link, but someone else controls that and eventually takes it down, like I can't really do much about it. But with like more kind of cryptographically verifiable links, like Ceramic, like IPFS is another thing that's for static content. In a similar way, you can start building these kind of semantic meanings, and there's actually people in our community that wants to build like and I didn't think that would happen so early, but people are like, oh, I want to build like a, what do they call it, I don't remember exactly, some kind of world index of like different ontologies, like building just like ontology structures that describes concepts, right? So if you can have like these linked data structure with semantic data, you can start doing really interesting things. And especially as you kind of start to generate like larger data flows, I can imagine like DAOs having data flows from all of their users, and their user might be like, imagine there's like 1 million users of a DAO, and then they make decisions, and they need to like manage the attention of all of the users to like know that they're looking at the right things, right? So how do you do that if you have like a huge DAO that's like 1 million users? Like how do you kind of curate all of the attention of all of the users? Like how do you coordinate in that? And so I think we'll need to like, based on, since we can do attribution in Ceramic, we can start to create some kind of verifiable log of information, like how you view data, and that can be encrypted and like private to the user. But then you have some part, like either the DAO like randomly selects, or you have some other kind of mechanism where you have like some set that is like, okay, this is what we're paying attention at, and then you can basically create a distributed machine learning system that
it's a sentiment-aware algorithmic context distribution system where the address is not the link. The link can be created through meaning and context, and not actually just by pointing a number to a place. Right?
Yeah.
So that answers like my question. I'm happy about that answer.
It's Skynet, yeah.
So I mean,
it's not,
what happens is basically like you have this randomly selected group of people that for some time it's the people that are you're validating against, and then like everyone else contributes data to the mechanism, and that kind of allows the AI to like recommend things where you should be looking at this, to like maybe you can help out with this task, and like trying to like coordinate all these people.
That's really cool.
Well, if you get more ambitious, that could totally save like the bubble dumbness phenomena that we're living in, because you could actually control you could have different profile, like what is most useful to me right now, but it also could be like what is challenging my worldview, what is my blind spot thing. You could have different settings.
It will always be contextual, right? Like you might ask that question contextual to a DAO that has some values in some direction, and if you might be involved in multiple DAOs that like you get different answers, and then if you ask that individually, your answer might be weighted by the DAOs that you're like involved with, or something like that. So I think we really kind of need to build the future of like recommendation systems based on like collective agreement of like what is important and like what we should value.
Yeah, I think Joel is going to be the most important person we've ever met. We're just like not realizing this yet. Jesus Christ, what an episode. We're at the top of the hour. House party people at my garden, that it's our garden, that it's a DAO garden. The thing is, this was actually a pretty special episode because we had Griff jump in and he's wearing lime green, and my mind is most of the time lime green, and then Joel has like red glasses, and well, Venom and Deacon look the same all the time, so I have nothing exciting to say about them. Yeah. But I do like your new haircut, Deacon, so it's looking pretty good. You don't have the Deacon fro anymore. Wow, look at you. You're like a rock star now, man. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. You guys were awesome. You're free to hang out more, but I just gonna say thank you, party people. This was another episode, and I hope you claimed your POAPs that we never told you how. Where's Vanilla? Claim it.
There. He put the links in the chat.
The community.
Right, so if you don't know how to go to the house party chat and just click the link or figure it out, claiming is important. We should create a moderator POAP as well. I will just have all of them.
Thanks, Joel. It was great talking. And,
thanks for coming, man.
And Griff, we'll have you on soon.
Griff, let's coordinate the dates for the things. Please DM me. And Joel, thank you for coming. Thank you for tolerating our eventual coordination failures, and I'll be with you really soon again next week.
All right, take care, everyone.
You all have a good weekend.